great to see you back at Shelter in the Storm with A Course in Miracles, lesson number 69. Let me briefly apologise for uploading a practice video for the lesson 69 yesterday. So I'm re-uploading this one in its place. Hopefully it comes across a bit better than the other one. Okay, we are in chapter 5, Healing and Wholeness, and we are completing part 1, the invitation to the Holy Spirit, with lesson 69. I'll just read from where we left off. The Holy Spirit is the only part of the Holy Trinity that has a symbolic function. He is referred to as the healer, the comforter, and the guide. He is also described as something separate, apart from the Father and from the Son. I myself said, "If I go, I will send you another comforter, and he will abide with you." His symbolic function makes the Holy Spirit difficult to understand, because symbolism is open to different interpretations. As a man and also one of God's creations, my right thinking, which came from the Holy Spirit or the universal inspiration, taught me first and foremost that this inspiration is for all. I could not have it myself without knowing this. The word know is proper in this context because the Holy Spirit is so close to knowledge that he calls it forth, or better, allows it to come. I have spoken before of the higher or true perception, which is so near to truth that God himself can flow across the little gap. Knowledge is always ready to flow everywhere. It cannot oppose. Therefore, you can obstruct it, although you can never lose it. The Holy Spirit is the Christ mind, which is aware of the knowledge that lies beyond perception. He came into being with the separation as a protection, inspiring the atonement principle at the same time. Before that, there was no need for healing, for no one was comfortless. The voice of the Holy Spirit is the call to atonement, or the restoration of the integrity of the mind. When the atonement is complete and the whole sonship is healed, there will be no call to return. But what God creates is eternal. The Holy Spirit will remain with the sons of God to bless their creations and keep them in the light of joy. God honored even the miscreations of his children because they had made them. But he also blessed his children with a way of thinking that could raise their perceptions so high they could reach almost back to him. The Holy Spirit is the mind of the atonement. He represents a state of mind close enough to one-mindedness that transfer to it is at last possible. Perception is not knowledge, but it can be transferred to knowledge or cross over into it. It might even be more helpful here to use the literal meaning of transferred or carried over, since the last step is taken by God. The Holy Spirit, the shared inspiration of all the sonship, induces a kind of perception in which many elements are like those in the kingdom of heaven itself. First, its universality is perfectly clear, and no one who attains it could believe for one instant that sharing it involves anything but gain. Second, it is incapable of attack and is therefore truly open. This means that although it does not engender knowledge, it does not obstruct it in any way. Finally, it points the way beyond the healing that it brings and leads the mind beyond its own integration toward the paths of creation. It is at this point that sufficient quantitative change occurs to produce a real qualitative shift. Okay, that's the end of part 1 for chapter 5. Let's move along now for lesson 69. My grievances hide the light of the world in me. No one can look upon what your grievances conceal, because your grievances are hiding the light of the world in you. Everyone stands in darkness, and you beside him. But as the veil of your grievances is lifted, you are released with him. Share your salvation now with him who stood beside you when you were in hell. He is your brother in the light of the world that saves you both. Today, let us make another real attempt to reach the light in you. Before we undertake this in our more extended practice period, let us devote several minutes to thinking about what we are trying to do. We are literally attempting to get in touch with the salvation of the world. We are trying to see past the veil of darkness that keeps it concealed. We are trying to let the veil be lifted and to see the tears of God's Son disappear in the sunlight. Let us begin our longer practice period today with the full realization that this is so, and with real determination to reach what is dearer to us than all else. Salvation is our only need. There is no other purpose here, and no other function to fulfill. Learning salvation is our only goal. Let us end the ancient search today by finding the light in us and holding it up for everyone who searches with us to look upon and rejoice. Very quietly now, with your eyes closed, try to let go of all the content that generally occupies your consciousness. Think of your mind as a vast circle, surrounded by a layer of heavy, dark clouds. You can see only the clouds because you seem to be standing outside the circle and quite apart from it. From where you stand, you can see no reason to believe there is a brilliant light hidden by the clouds. The clouds seem to be the only reality. They seem to be all there is to see. Therefore, you do not attempt to go through them and past them, which is the only way in which you would be really convinced of their lack of substance. We will make this attempt today. After you have thought about the importance of what you are trying to do for yourself and the world, try to settle down in perfect stillness, remembering only how much you want to reach the light in you today. Now, determine to go past the clouds. Page is stuck. Reach out and touch them in your mind. Brush them aside with your hand. Feel them resting on your cheeks and forehead and eyelids as you go through them. Go on. Clouds cannot stop you. If you are doing the exercises properly, you will begin to feel a sense of being lifted up and carried ahead. Your little effort and small determination call on the power of the universe to help you, and God Himself will raise you from darkness into light. You are in accord with His will. You cannot fail because your will is His. Have confidence in your Father today, and be certain that He has heard you and answered you. You may not recognize His answer yet, but you can indeed be sure that it is given you, and you will receive it, and you will yet receive it. Try, as you attempt to go through the clouds to the light, to hold this confidence in your mind. Try to remember that you are at last joining your will to God's. Try to keep the thought clearly in mind that what you undertake with God must succeed. Then let the power of God work in you and through you, that His will and yours be done. In the shorter practice periods, which you will want to do as often as possible in view of the importance of today's idea to you and your happiness, remind yourself that your grievances are hiding the light of the world from your awareness. Remind yourself also that you are not searching for it alone, and that you do know where to look for it. Say then, my grievances hide the light of the world in me. I cannot see what I have hidden, yet I want to let it be revealed to me for my salvation and the salvation of the world. Also, be sure to tell yourself, if I hold this grievance, the light of the world will be hidden from me. If you are tempted to hold anything against anyone today. Okay, it's lesson 69. Let's see what Jesus' comments are about lesson 69. My grievances hide the light of the world in me. You are blessed beings, indeed. I am that one you know as Jesus. All of you have had the experience of holding a grievance, where it goes around and around in your mind, and everything, the beautiful sunny day, the wonderful flowers along the path where you walk, the health of your body, friendships, fades into the background. This happens when a grievance works its way around your consciousness. You, literally, see the world disappear from view as you become obsessed with that fight in your mind. Now, for those of you who are partially trained and getting along in the lessons now, you've done some mind training. You have become more annoyed by your grievances than those who have not had any mind training. This is an important thing for you to understand, because it is very disturbing to have a grievance in the mind. It upsets your peace. If you have accessed little pieces of peace as a student of A Course in Miracles, when you now lose it, your peace, that is, you feel awful because you have a new contrast revealed to you When your mind was occupied with grievances all the time and hateful thoughts about yourself and the world and the politicians and the government, and the environment, and you just went at it without your mind training, you had a constant level of infection with grievances in your mind, and no great contrast existed there. Once you come to a place of peace, even temporarily as the periods of peace become longer and longer, that disruption of peace, of your peace, becomes intolerable now. This is a gift. We do not want you to think you have failed. We do not want you to think of yourself as a bad student of A Course in Miracles. Oh no. You merely see where you used to be all the time and why you started the lessons of A Course in Miracles. Remember, you were not at peace. You were not happy with your experience on earth. So you decided to learn something new, to see what you didn't know about yourself. As your peace increases, the grievances you hold in your mind become clearly revealed as the disruptive influence they are. You have to work hard and fast with your forgiveness practice to get back to peace. That is the wonderful news of doing A Course in Miracles lessons. Because what does this do? This makes peace more prolonged and more easily accessible. When you encounter a grievance, you see the tremendous contrast in your frequency if you plummet down into that grievance. You feel awful and say, "For heaven's sake, please bring me back up to where I was. This grievance is not worth it. It is not worth the awful way I feel, and the ongoing argument in my head is intolerable. I really, really want peace." That is a beautiful place to be, dear ones. Do not chastise yourself for experiencing the contrast. For the contrast of falling back into the ego's world shows you it is not what you want. All you have to do is go back to your lessons, employ them in your thinking process, and peace returns to you. It is scientific in that way. If you follow and apply the lessons, you will not plummet down into the ego's world and its low frequency. You remain in the frequency of love. As you go through these lessons, there will be many days when you experience a grievance, and that is the work. That is the hard part. The hard part is feeling the contrast. But the easy part is the peace. So choose peace. It is your natural inheritance. You are meant to be happy and at peace. The ego's world is a battleground, and it is not much fun. I am that one you know as Jesus, and we will speak to you tomorrow. Much love. Namaste, dear ones.